Such divisions can make any bloc ineffective, whether it's the G7 or NATO or the European Union or the BRICS. Tonight, we're focusing on the last one, BRICS. It's a bloc of 5 emerging economies: Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, hence the name BRICS. The name itself is an acronym. Last week, the BRICS leaders gathered for a summit, virtually. Every member came with a different agenda. India was focused on shared economic interests. Russia was focused on bypassing Western sanctions, but China had the most ambitious one. China wanted to cultivate the BRICS as a Western rival, a forum to take on the United States. Now that's a big ask. We're talking about institutions that have been around since the Second World War. They're old and established. So to challenge them, you need a big coalition. You need a bigger coalition, much bigger than just 5 countries. So what does China do? They try to expand the BRICS. 2 countries have applied for membership, Iran and Argentina. Technically, both of them fit the bill. They're emerging economies. They're rich in resources, and they don't subscribe to the Western system. Having said that, a few problems remain. First, the nomenclature. You have to accommodate 2 more letters now in BRICS, A and I. Good luck to anyone trying to figure that out. But jokes aside, what does this expansion mean politically? And should India support it? For starters, this expansion is being pushed by China. They want the BRICS to counter the G7 and G20. Basically, they want to create an alternative global economic order. On paper, it's not a bad idea, but what will this new order look like? Chances are a lot like China's, and I'll tell you why. Put together, the BRICS GDP is almost $27.5 trillion, 27.5 trillion. Guess how much China contributes? Almost 70%. 70% of the BRICS GDP belongs to China. Compare that to the rest. India makes up 13%. Russia and Brazil contribute 7% each. Do you see the problem here? China already has a lot of clout within the BRICS, and this expansion is only going to increase that. Iran has signed a 25-year cooperation deal with China. Argentina is part of the Belt and Road Initiative. Both countries are betting big on Beijing. And it will not stop at 2. Because China has a long list of potential members: Egypt, Indonesia, Kazakhstan, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Nigeria, Senegal, Thailand. These are all potential members identified by China. Some of them are key allies of the United States, and that's precisely why China wants them. They want to use the BRICS to draw these countries away from the West. I'm talking about Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Egypt. These are all important Western allies. So China's intentions are evident. Their plans are pretty transparent. The question is, how should India respond? Before last week's summit, India appeared to be tough on expansion. Reports said that any expansion bid would be stonewalled. The joint statement reflects that ambivalence. This is what it says, the BRICS joint statement. And I'm quoting, "We support promoting discussions among BRICS members on BRICS expansion process. We stress the need to clarify the guiding principles, standards, criteria and procedures for the expansion process through Sherpas' channel on the basis of full consultation and consensus." In other words, in simpler words, India said, and the BRICS members in the joint statement have said, that we are okay with expansion as long as it happens based on consultation and consensus. And this is where it gets tricky. China needs India to sign off on new members. If India disagrees, the BRICS cannot expand. But can India say no to these countries? Iran, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, they're all key Indian partners. Can you say no to them? So India has a tough choice to make. If you expand BRICS, you're giving China a powerful tool. If you don't, you're denying your partners. It's not an easy choice, but China is making at least some of them easier. I'll give you an example. Last week's BRICS summit had a side event, a high-level dialogue on global development. A lot of emerging economies were invited to this dialogue. Guess who wasn't? Pakistan. And their government is still sulking about it. Listen to what their foreign ministry said, the Pakistani foreign ministry. "We have noted that this year a high-level dialogue on global development was held as a BRICS side event in which a number of developing economies were invited. Regrettably, one member blocked Pakistan's participation." It's not much of a riddle. Chances are that member was India, and rightly so. The BRICS is a grouping of emerging economies. It has no place for politics. Also, does Pakistan even qualify? Surely 22 loans from the IMF should be enough to count them out. All these considerations will shape India's approach to expanding the BRICS. It is important to not forget its founding principles: economic reforms, greater representation in the global financial institutions, a diverse monetary system, reforms to the United Nations Security Council. These were the big goals set by the BRICS. So challenging the Western order was the idea. But not through a Cold War or by cultivating bloc politics, and certainly not by replacing the existing system with a Chinese one. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.